Welcome back! SoCal Fryer is back in the house, and I was talking to my partner, Noah, who's actually the cameraman behind us back here. But I was talking to Noah, and I was like, Noah, I can cook ribs in there, and he bet me $20 that I couldn't cook ribs in the air fryer.
Yep.
So I got a recipe for you, and we're about to get to it. But the first main thing that you want to do before you start cooking ribs in an air fryer is you got to remove the membrane. I'm going to show you what that is real quick. If you take a look at this part right here of the meat, this is the membrane on the ribs that we have. And this membrane, most people don't know this, is this membrane needs to come off of it, because what happens is if you go ahead and put seasoning on it and try to put seasoning on it, first of all, the seasoning doesn't get down to the meat. And secondly, it doesn't cook evenly all the way through because it's got this membrane to cook through. Now, it's a pain in the butt to get it off, but I learned a couple little tricks. And the first trick that you want to do is you want to take on the bone part, and you want to get right up underneath that membrane right there, and take your knife. And then what I learned, hold on, let me get one more tool, is if you take your knife and you use the back side of it back here, and I could do it on either one of those, but I don't want to cut the front of it anymore, just to get enough space on that membrane off of there. And then what you can do is you can take a paper towel, and you've got to get that membrane off of there. And you see how that membrane's coming off there like that? You want to get all that off of there. And it takes a minute to do, and it's not easy to do the first time you do it. This is only the second time that I've ever done it, as you can see. But I want to make sure that I get that membrane off so that it cooks as well as it should cook. And I'm going to turn it this way. Hopefully you guys can see still. I'm going to peel that membrane off of there, and it comes off. It comes off better with a paper towel if you do it with a paper towel and with your hands, so that way it's not that slippery. It is a little messy and a little nasty, but it's the best way to get the kind of ribs that you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the membrane off of here real quick, and I'll be back in a minute to let you know how we do it. Okay, now that I got the membrane off, and that was not an easy task to do, I'm going to cut off a little bit of this fat right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the ribs. Usually I cut them in 4s, but since I put them in the air fryer, I'm going to cut them in 3s to make them a little bit better, easier to deal with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count on 3 bones. 1, 2, 3. And I am going to slice right down. And it'll be easier also to coat these when I want to go ahead and put the rub on it. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna make this 3. Look at that beauty right there. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, the first thing I do is, remember, meat tenderizer. I never used to use this, but now I'm putting it on everything that I have. It's a little meat tenderizer. So what we're going to do is we're going to get meat tenderizer all over these ribs so that it tenderizes the meat so they're succulent and beautiful. So let me finish here. And the best part about this, like I said, normally on a grill, it takes about 3 hours. I've cooked ribs before to get them to the way I want them. And this air fryer, and I have cheated, I have done this before, but I promise, so no, it's still got to pay my 20 bucks, I don't care. But I've done this before, and they do come out nice. And what I usually do is I'll go ahead and I'm going to put both sides of meat tenderizer on both sides. Now for the rub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to season these on the top here, and I'm going to get a decent amount of rub on there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub that stuff in there real quick. Okay. Oh, the rub smells delicious. Remember, Famous Dave's Rib Rub. It's incredible. Okay, you're gonna rub some of that in there. Get that, and I wash my hands, so we're all good. Get that all up in there. Yeah. Yeah. And usually I like to let my ribs sit overnight. Before I put with the rub on them, so that they marinate. I'm going to do both sides with the rub and make sure that I'm generous with the rub. I wanted to get all over every part of the ribs. So that way I got a great tasting rib in the long haul. Okay, so we're gonna get that rub in everything. I like that. I'm even gonna get the edges, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But I wanna make sure the edges get rub all over them. Yes, that's perfect. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. I've got the chef made, it's ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and take the ribs and I'm gonna stick them in the chef mate. I'm gonna put that on 350 degrees for the ribs, 15 minutes. I'm gonna check them, turn them, put them on for another 15 minutes, and then after that I'm gonna add my perfect sauce. And yes, I did say about 40 minutes for these ribs to be done, and they're gonna be great. Sweet baby rays. That's the secret ingredient. But you can't tell anybody about this. It's just between us. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is come on down here and look at these ribs. We're gonna coat these ribs with that sweet secret ingredient. Yes. Now they're starting to look like ribs. Gonna coat it really good. We're gonna coat it on both sides, because remember the air fryer cooks both sides at the same time. But you're gonna get it all over there. Yeah, get some rib juice. Get that barbecue sauce all over that rib. Okay. And I'm gonna cook these in here probably about 5 minutes more on each side. I just want to make sure the ribs are cooked all the way through. They're pretty thick. So I just want to make sure that I get to make sure they're all done all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook them for 5 minutes on this side, one more time. And then, since this is the back side, I want to make sure I get that little sear that I like on them. And this is going to caramelize also from the heat. So that's going to give me a little bit of that same sear that I like. And then what we'll do is we'll flip it after the 5 minutes and coat it one more time on the top side where the meat is, just to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. Again, we're cooking at 350 degrees, so I want to make sure that the ribs are completely cooked. These, look how beautiful that is. Can you see that? Look at that. Look at that. And it's juicy. It's incredible. These are all rib tips right here. Look at this. I love that. Look at those big rib tips. That's beautiful. This is what it's all about right here. Now look at this. You want to see the inside of one? Check this out. This was cut right down the center. Look at the inside of that, all the way done and totally, thoroughly juicy. I'm going to try one little rib tip here. Very juicy. That's incredible, folks. That's rib and an air fryer. Yeah.